All right, let's jump right in, shall we? We've got a mountain of reports and analyses, all from like January 13th to the 15th, 2025.
A real grab bag of U.S. and Taiwanese markets.
The mission. Well, we're digging deep looking for those key insights into, the economic landscape and future trends, especially in software and tech.
Yeah, AI is definitely the buzzword du jour. And the global economic picture, well, let's just say it's a little hazy right now.
Yeah, I was looking at those U.S. numbers, and December's non-farm payroll numbers were like way higher than expected.
Yeah, strong employment is usually good, but it also makes people nervous about inflation.
Right. More people working means more spending, which I guess can push those prices up. Does
Exactly.
this mean we're looking at potential interest rate hikes,
Yeah.
to kind of cool things down?
It's definitely on the table. The Fed's keeping a close eye on all this. And higher interest rates, well, that impacts just about everything. Mortgages, loans, how people invest, the whole 9 yards.
It's like a giant domino effect, right?
Hmm.
And speaking of interconnectedness, those California wildfires really shook things up.
Absolutely. Natural disasters, no matter where they happen, they can send ripples through global markets, supply chains, businesses, investor confidence. It all takes a hit.
It's a stark reminder of how interconnected our world really is.
Mm.
And then you've got, well, politics, always stirring the pot.
Yeah.
I was surprised to see former President Trump's comments about Greenland and the Panama Canal actually impacting the Taiwanese stock market.
Yeah, geopolitical events, they add a layer of uncertainty, especially in regions that are, sensitive to global power dynamics. Investors tend to get a little skittish.
It's a volatile world out there. But let's dive into something a bit more exciting, shall we? The tech industry, this KGI software analysis, it's pretty fascinating, especially what they're saying about AI.
AI is definitely having a moment. The KVI report, it talks about scaling law, which basically means the bigger the AI model, the better it performs.
So size does matter in the AI world.
It seems so, yeah. They also mention a shift from the training phase to the inference phase.
Some of our listeners might not be familiar with all the technical jargon. Can you break that down a bit?
Sure. Think of training as teaching a student. You feed an AI model tons of data, and it learns from that data, starts to recognize patterns and make predictions. Inference is when it uses what it's learned to actually do stuff, make decisions, solve problems.
So it's like going from book smarts to street smarts.
I guess you could say that, yeah.
So what does this shift to inference mean for the industry?
It changes the whole game in terms of hardware and resources. Instead of needing these massive data centers just for training, the focus is shifting to making these AI models accessible for real-world use.
And speaking of real-world use, KGI is predicting some big changes in the AI model market share. They're saying that OpenAI might make a comeback in 2025 after, well, a bit of a dip in 2024.
Yeah, it's an interesting story. Menlo Ventures data shows OpenAI's share going down last year, probably because of all the open source models and competition popping up.
So what's fueling this potential resurgence?
Well, they're rolling out new stuff. The GPT-4o real-time model just launched, and they're focusing on developing more specialized APIs and subscription services for businesses.
APIs, can you explain those in plain English for our listeners who might not be tech wizards?
Think of APIs as like connectors. They let developers take the power of AI models, like the ones from OpenAI, and integrate them into their own software or services.
Got it. So better APIs, possibly higher prices, which translates into more revenue for OpenAI. Makes sense.
Hmm.
But this report also mentions AI agents. Now, this is something that really caught my eye.
AI agents are basically programs that can perform complex tasks, learn from experience, and even interact with the real world. They're kind of like digital assistants on steroids.
Is it like little robots that can do our bidding?
Pretty much. And businesses are definitely taking notice. Salesforce, for example, they launched Agentforce last year, which lets companies create custom AI agents using all of Salesforce's data and systems.
Yeah, I remember seeing that in the reports. They're already reporting over 1,000 transactions, which is pretty impressive for a technology that's still, in its early stages. But I got to ask, what about all that jargon like data cloud and advanced RAG? What do those even mean?
Data Cloud is basically Salesforce's giant data platform. It's what feeds these AI agents, gives them the info they need to make decisions and get stuff done.
So the data cloud is the brain food, so to speak. What about advanced RAG?
RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. It's a way to combine information retrieval, searching through huge databases, with AI's ability to create new content. Advanced RAG just means Salesforce is pushing the limits of how these AI agents can access and use information.
It's kind of wild to think we're talking about AI that can, like, learn, adapt, and even do our work for us. Feels like we're stepping into a sci-fi movie.
It's exciting, but also raises some questions, especially for investors. Like, what about the whole Microsoft and OpenAI situation? Microsoft's poured a lot of money into OpenAI, and people are wondering if it'll pay off.
Yeah, it's been a hot topic in the financial news. What do these reports tell us about that?
Well, they're projecting some serious revenue for OpenAI in the next few years, which is good news for Microsoft's investment.
That's reassuring.
Okay.
But even if OpenAI doesn't use Azure exclusively, doesn't Microsoft still benefit from their growth?
Absolutely. The more OpenAI grows, the more computing power they'll need, and a lot of that spending will likely still go to Azure. So it's a win-win for Microsoft, even with OpenAI using other cloud providers too.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And speaking of spreading the love, did you see that Apple's integrating ChatGPT into iOS?
Yep. That's a pretty big deal. Signals that AI tools are becoming more mainstream, moving beyond just tech enthusiasts and into the hands of everyday users.
It's definitely a sign of the times. But let's shift gears and talk about another industry that's being disrupted by AI search.
Ah, yes. AI-powered search tools like ChatGPT Search. They're shaking things up. They offer a different way to find information, more conversational, more focused on understanding what the user actually wants.
It's a challenge to Google's dominance, but they're not sitting still. Google's launched Gemini Flash 2.0 and Notebook LM, their own AI-powered search and research tools.
Google's definitely feeling the pressure to innovate, and this is going to impact everything: how we search, how businesses advertise, the whole shebang.
We're already seeing AI-driven SEO becoming a thing. Companies are trying to optimize their websites to be found by these new AI search engines.
It's a whole new ball game. But before we disappear down the search engine rabbit hole, there are a few other trends from these reports I think our listeners will find interesting.
I'm all ears. Always up for some mind-blowing insights.
Well, for one, the reports point to the potential of tokenization in payments.
Tokenization. Sounds like something out of the crypto world.
It's actually a way to make online payments more secure. You replace sensitive card details with unique tokens. MasterCard's betting big on this tech.
So safer online shopping in the future, always a good thing. What else caught your eye?
The rise of autonomous vehicles is another big one. Uber, DoorDash, they're all looking at how self-driving cars and delivery robots can change their business models.
Yeah, driverless deliveries are popping up everywhere. I've seen a few in my neighborhood. Isn't NVIDIA also a big player in this space?
Big time. They're a leading supplier of the chips and software that power all these autonomous systems. They've even coined a term for it: physical AI.
Okay, so we've got AI in the digital world and now physical AI in the real world. What's the difference?
Physical AI is AI that can control stuff in the real world. Robots, self-driving cars, drones, even smart infrastructure. It's like where the digital and physical worlds collide.
Feels like AI is everywhere we turn. But what about regulations? The reports also mention the possibility of more government oversight of big tech and the fintech industry.
That's a crucial factor to consider. New tech usually leads to new regulations. Governments are trying to figure out how to balance innovation with consumer protection and ethical concerns.
It's a complex landscape to navigate.
Yeah.
So from what we're seeing in these reports, it seems like the global economic outlook is a bit iffy, but tech, especially AI, is a real bright spot. It has the potential to reshape so many sectors in the next few years.
That's the big takeaway here. But what does this all mean for our listeners? How will these tech advancements impact their lives, their work, their businesses? That's what we'll explore in more detail after a quick break. We've been digging through all these reports, but let's make it real for our listeners. How could these trends actually play out in their lives?
Right, it's easy to get lost in the big picture, but people want to know if they need to, like, learn how to code tomorrow or start saving for a robot butler.
Well, maybe not a robot butler just yet, but the stuff we're seeing, it's going to have a huge impact. Remember those AI agents we talked about? Imagine them being everywhere.
Okay, so instead of a call center with a bunch of people, you've got, like, an army of AI agents answering phones, maybe even personalizing offers or troubleshooting tech problems.
Exactly. Or think about healthcare. AI agents could analyze patient data, help doctors diagnose stuff, even create personalized treatment plans. The possibilities are kind of mind-blowing.
It's amazing, but it also makes you wonder about jobs. Are we all going to be replaced by robots?
It's a valid concern. Some jobs will definitely be automated, but AI will also create new opportunities and change the way we work. It's not about AI versus humans, it's about figuring out how to work together.
So instead of being scared of AI taking our jobs, We should see it as a tool to help us do more, be more efficient, kind of like how spreadsheets change the way we deal with numbers.
Exactly. The key takeaway for our listeners is to keep learning, develop new skills, and figure out how these technologies can be used in their specific fields. The future belongs to those who can adapt.
So don't freak out, but don't ignore it either. Stay curious, stay informed, and be ready for change.
And experiment. There are tons of free AI tools online. Play around with them, see what they can do. You might be surprised by how easy they are to use.
Great advice. Remember that shift from training to inference we talked about earlier? I think it's worth another look because it has big implications for businesses.
Definitely. It means companies don't need those huge data centers and in-house experts to train their own AI models anymore. They can use pre-trained models and customize them for their specific needs.
So instead of building a whole suit from scratch, it's like buying a nice suit off the rack and getting it tailored.
Great analogy. It's all about efficiency and access. This opens up AI to way more companies, even those without huge IT budgets or like dedicated AI teams.
And if OpenAI's projected comeback in 2025 happens, could that make these advanced AI tools even more accessible for smaller companies?
It's possible. If OpenAI can make those high-end models and APIs cheaper and easier to use, it could level the playing field for startups and smaller businesses.
So another key takeaway is to keep an eye on OpenAI and other companies that are making it easier for businesses to integrate AI, no matter how big or small they are.
Exactly. But like any powerful tool, there are downsides to consider.
Right. We've all seen those sci-fi movies where AI goes rogue and, takes over the world.
Hopefully it won't come to that. But we do need to think about things like data privacy and how to prevent these technologies from being misused.
So responsible innovation is key. Finding that balance between using AI to its full potential and making sure it's used ethically.
Absolutely. Which brings us to another important point, how AI is going to disrupt different industries. We talked about search, but that's just the beginning.
Right. Think about tokenization and how it could revolutionize online payments, making them more secure and streamlined.
And then there's physical AI, autonomous vehicles, robots, drones. These technologies are going to change everything: logistics, transportation, manufacturing, healthcare.
We're on the verge of some major shifts, but how can our listeners figure out how these trends will impact their own careers or businesses?
It's about connecting those trends to their specific industry and job. They should be asking themselves, how might AI automate stuff in my field? What new opportunities might come up?
It's about staying ahead of the curve, doing research, thinking critically, and being adaptable.
And remember, you don't have to figure it all out on your own. There's tons of information and online communities dedicated to AI. Connecting with others who are going through the same thing can be really helpful.
Great point. Find your people, share knowledge, and navigate this exciting but confusing world together.
And it's important to remember that these reports are just a snapshot in time. The tech world changes fast, and what's revolutionary today might be old news tomorrow.
It's a constant cycle of innovation and disruption, but that's what makes it so exciting. It's challenging, but it also gives us a chance to be part of shaping the future.
Before we wrap up, I want to emphasize something we haven't really talked about. We focused on the tech itself, but ultimately, it's the human element that matters most.
Ah, yes. With all this talk about AI and automation, it's easy to forget that these are tools created by humans for humans.
Exactly. And as we deal with all these changes, we can't forget the values and principles that guide us.
Things like ethics, sustainability, social responsibility.
Exactly. We need to make sure these advancements are used for good, to solve problems, make lives better, and create a more equitable and sustainable future.
It's not just about the technology, but about how we choose to use it and the impact it has on society as a whole.
Couldn't have said it better myself. We need to think about the potential consequences, both good and bad, and try to use these advancements to make the world a better place for everyone.
That's a powerful message for our listeners. As we look ahead, let's remember that technology is a tool, and it's up to us to use it wisely and responsibly. We've covered a lot of ground today, looking at the economy and the whole AI revolution. But before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with something to think about.
Got to give them something to chew on, right? Something to spark their imagination.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We've talked about how AI can change industries, automate jobs, even change the way we work altogether. But what about its impact on something a little less concrete, but maybe even more important, human creativity?
Now, that's an interesting question. We tend to think of AI as, well, logical, data-driven, but could it actually be a source of inspiration? Like, could it be artistic?
It's a wild thought, right? We're already seeing AI create art, write music, even poems and stories.
And some of the stuff it comes up with is pretty amazing, even a little creepy sometimes. It makes you question, like, what does it even mean to be creative?
It's like, what happens when AI can create things that we used to think only humans could do? Does it, like, devalue human creativity? Or does it open up new possibilities, new ways to collaborate, new forms of expression?
That's the real head scratcher, isn't it? It's not just about what AI can do, but how it changes how we think about ourselves, about being human.
It reminds us that even with all this amazing technology, the most important questions are often the ones that don't have easy answers.
Yeah, for sure. So, as we finish up this deep dive, we want our listeners to really think about these things. When you see AI generated art or music or even just text, take a minute. How does it make you feel? Does it inspire you? Does it make you question what art even is?
It's worth thinking about. This whole AI and creativity thing, it's a space that's ripe for exploration, for discussion.
And it's not just about art for art's sake. This has implications for all sorts of industries. AI is already being used to design products, write marketing copy, even write code.
It's becoming a part of the creative process in areas that, we used to think were strictly human territory. And the trend's only going to get bigger.
Exactly. So for our listeners, it's important to stay informed, to experiment, to be part of the conversation. The future of creativity is being shaped right now, and we all have a role to play.
So as we head into this uncharted territory, let's remember that AI is a tool. It can help us be more creative, but we have to use it wisely. We have to be responsible.
We have to be aware of the potential problems, like biases and algorithms or art becoming too homogenous, but we also have to be open to the possibilities.
It's a balancing act, but it's one we have to get right. The future of creativity, heck, the future of so many industries, depends on it.
So to all our listeners out there, we say, stay curious, stay engaged, and keep exploring. This whole AI and creativity thing, it's a frontier full of surprises and potential.
And who knows? Maybe you'll be the one to discover the next big thing, the next masterpiece, the next innovation that changes everything. So, until next time, keep diving deep and keep those creative sparks flying.